TV, and I think I did a late night show, but I can't really remember. Did I do a late night show? I don't know. But I had my heat on. You know, I heated up the house this morning. It was nice. Got a call from PG&E. Another call. This is like the 6th call I got from them. We're going to be turning the power off. 2 minutes after they call, my power goes out. I was just about to get in the shower. And, you know, it'd be nice if they call and say, hey, we're shutting your power off right now. But they didn't. They just said, we'll be shutting your power off today. So they shut the power off, and luckily I hadn't taken a shower yet. I was so happy, man. I was like, everything worked perfectly. I put my jeans back on, I put my shirt on, put my flip-flops on. I got on my, I went outside, got on the quad, rode down to the fucking, to the power thing, shut it off, came back upstairs, plugged in the generator to the, where the dryer goes. You can't do that until you shut the power off. Then I turned on the generator, fired up the generator, and then I took a shower. And it was great. It was a great shower. In fact, it's funny. The generator has a weird amperage. It's not like a sustained amperage. It varies. That little bit of variance in the amperage compared to the home electric. I bet he will be on any moment. And bing. Michael Goldsmith, right on, buddy. Bing, bing, bing. Roger says, Bernie Sanders. Hell yeah. Richard Magnelli, Trinity Mafia. What? Spidey. Good morning, Spidey. I could use a little bombing. I got an errant hair. I could use a little bombing. Get some of this beautiful beard balm here. I'm trying something different here, guys. I'm putting it right in the beard instead of on my hands. I used to put it in my hands and then I rub it all through. Man, I'm liking it better. It's less on my hands and more on my beard this way. To just rub it right into the hairs, you know? Just massage it right in. Just get it right into that beard, man. Oop, I dropped a little. I saw it, but I recaptured it. This stuff is like liquid gold. Hey, Pam, what's up? So anyway, you guys notice I'm wearing one of the tees. So if you want to see what the t-shirts look like, here they are. I'll model it for you. Of course, they don't have the prints on, but the prints are shipped, and I have a delivery date on the transfers. So the transfers will arrive on drum roll, please. The transfers will arrive on next Monday. So I will be transferring on Monday, and I'll be shipping out next week for sure. So Hutch, the only person who actually pre-bought a hoodie, he will be receiving his hoodie before anybody else sometime next week. Definitely. So, no fucking said that. Keith Vinicombe. Yeah, you're a fucking idiot. You know, you're an idiot. Backburning now or get the fuck off my live stream, dude. Get out of here. Nobody good enough for the job. Yeah, and who the fuck is Bernie Sanders? You know? Fuck, dude. People are so dumb. I'm just so sick of dumb people. I'm not here to argue with you, dude. I'm just here to tell you my opinion and tell you to go fuck yourself otherwise. Because you're wrong and I'm right. Sorry. Have a great day, bro. Just have it without me. Have your day without me. Yeah, like I said, I'm not here to debate you because I know I'm right. And if you're too dumb to realize that Bernie Sanders is the only option for president of the United States that anybody should be looking at right now, I don't want to be your friend. I don't want to be your acquaintance. I don't want to talk to you. You know? You're either all in for Bernie or fucking go vote for Trump. As far as I'm concerned, you're dead to me. If you're not voting, if you're on the left and you're not supporting Bernie, you're dead to me. More so than a Trump supporter. Oh yeah, more so than a Trump supporter. Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate that. Kelly Elizabeth. David Campione, Trinity Mafia, old school. What? Okay, so just put these there. I don't know what I'm gonna smoke today. I really enjoy that orange bud though, man. I think I might just switch back to Jack. A little Jack hair action. You know what I haven't? You know what I should do? I should fucking take the Jack Hare and Mixy Mixersons with the orange bud and smoke that together. I dropped my goddamn poker. Do not yet. Don't do it. Don't yell at me. Yeah, if you come in here talking any other bullshit, I'm gonna block you. You know, I'm not here to talk politics with you today. So if you come in here speaking some bullshit that I don't want to hear, you're going to get blocked. I couldn't give a fuck. You know, either come here, chill with me, smoke, and be friendly, and, you know, look at the title of this fucking video and participate in the conversation, or take your conversation elsewhere, okay? We talked about Trump yesterday. You missed your fucking chance. But we will be talking about vaping. We will be talking about the White House. Okay, that is the Jack Hare. I don't want to get confused here. And this is the orange bud, of course. We're going to mix that right in there with it, side by side. Okay. Yeah, it is a good idea, Debbie, isn't it? Sometimes I got them. Sometimes I get them. Sometimes I get good ideas. Sometimes I have terrible ideas. Okay, so, yes, we've got the Jack Hare. This is bottom of the hour, late. Look, 333. Boom, 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 3. Got it. Okay, so, I like numbers, and I hate numbers. I like them, and I hate them. All right, no law regarding cannabis, because it's the laws regarding cannabis, like these stupid laws that the Trump administration was threatening to pass vaping, that would actually result in killing people. Now, why? You're like, wait, I thought vaping killed 11 people. Yeah, but you know what kills way more people? The cigarette smoking that people are no longer doing because they've switched over to vaping. Yeah, and cigarettes kill way more people. So by taking flavored vapes away from people, you're literally responsible for the deaths of anybody that goes back to cigarettes and dies of lung cancer. It's your fucking fault. Cheers. It's so easy to think of this shit. So smooth. PayPal. Let me switch my camera. My high CPU usage warning just came up. Hey, Kayla. Wow, CPU usage is still high. Why? Why is the CPU so high? Hold on a second, guys. Let me hit a standby. Oh, I see why. Hold on. Ha! There we go. Just a little switch over to the cameras and switch over to a different scene, and man, that CPU usage just got lowered by 30%, 40%. So wow, that's so cool that I know how to do that now. Okay, cheers, Teresa, Debbie. I missed the cannabis vape. Teresa King. Okay, thanks. Chris Anderson. Good morning, Nay and the Trendies. Chris. Steve Running. Pac-Man said cannabis. Get the fuck out of here. Pac-Man said fucking cannabis? Did he say it continually or did he just say it? I can't fucking believe it. Is this going to be a new thing? I'm headed over to YouTube right now to go find out, man. This is fucking crazy. I can't believe he fucking used the word cannabis. Dude, I've been drilling him and drilling him and drilling him and fucking drilling him. I swear, man, for the past 5 years, I've been going after David Pakman to use the word cannabis. Well, ever since I started using it, I've been going after him. I'm like, you're smarter than me, man. You should definitely be using that word. You know, and, he just fucking ignored me for the longest. Pot, weed, marijuana, pot, weed, marijuana, pot, weed, marijuana. It was all I fucking heard out of his fucking fat mouth. And he actually called it, David Pakman fucking called it cannabis. I'm looking for a new upload from him. I'm not even seeing one, dude. Why aren't I seeing any uploads? I'm just, I just thought I would. He is totally being hidden, man. He's totally being hidden. I'm seeing everybody but David Pakman. A lot of secular talks. A lot of Thunderfoots. A lot of people that I don't even watch, but know David Pakman. Wow, poor David Pakman. They are really going after him, man. I feel bad for him, guys. I can't even find him on my feed anymore. David Pakman. David Pakman. You must have got through to him. Yes, nay, you see cannabis. I can't believe Joe Rogan won't use the word cannabis. He does. Joe Rogan does use the word cannabis sometimes. He does. He does. But he just doesn't do it religiously like we do. When people realize the main reason for the ban. I mean, David Pakman never uses the word cannabis. Never. It's either pot, weed, or marijuana. Those are his 3 words. And he loves calling it weed. He thinks he's so cool. Main reason for the bans is revenue loss for politicians. Right? Not revenue loss. CT, it's not a revenue loss. It's the loss of their jobs. They lose their constituents. You ban vaping, and if you're behind that bill, your people aren't going to vote for you. Think of all the people that vape. Think of all the voters that vape. Man, that's a huge chunk of people. I lit Joe up in one of his last marijuana posts. Chris, right on, buddy. Right on. I think I need some pain oil on my shoulder. Go to Pakman subs. David Pakman's live right now, guys. David Pakman's live right now, guys. Holy shit. Let's fucking do some super chats, man. Let's get him to say trendy as dabbers. Oh. Yeah, he's doing the he's doing the fucking he's following the fucking impeachment hearings. He's got the chat on slow. He's taking super chats. I'm going to do a super chat. It's going to cost me money, and I'm going to congratulate him because I heard that he used the word cannabis. Super chat. I'm paying for this. $5. All right? These are promotions. This is the only way I look at this. David, thank you for finally using the correct term cannabis. Just made my month. Hashtag NLRC. No law regarding cannabis. Right? Yo, Daniel, Liquid Amber, I vape cannabis like a pro. Steve running since 5:30 a.m. David, thank you for finally using the correct term cannabis. You just made my month. Let me put cannabis in quotes. I know he's weird like that. Dude, if you don't using the right word furthers the cause. Yeah. God, how many more letters can I fucking type? Yeah, oh, he's going to read them on break? Okay. David, thank you for finally using the correct term cannabis. Trendy ads dabbers. Thank you for finally using the correct term cannabis. You just made my month. Hashtag NLRC, no law regarding cannabis. Using the right word, period. Using the right word furthers the cause. Hashtag access for all. Access for all. Okay, dude, it's too many letters. How far did I go? They just cut me off. Hold on. Let me copy this whole thing. Oh, I went way too far. Okay, okay. Using... Calling it... Okay. No law regarding cannabis. Okay, how about this? Cannabis laws hurt more than cannabis. Okay. Now I have to eliminate some letters. David, thank you for finally using... Okay, we'll get rid of the word finally. Thank you for using the correct term cannabis. David, thank you for using the correct term cannabis. You made my month. No law regarding cannabis. No law regarding cannabis. Cannabis laws hurt more than cannabis. Are we ready? Are we good? We good? Cannabis laws hurt. Cannabis does not. How about that? Cannabis laws hurt. Cannabis does not. How about that? Is that better? I like what you said there. Cannabis laws hurt all. But, you know, cannabis laws make a lot of people rich. You know, that's why they're there. They don't hurt all. So that's just not true. But the laws hurt people more than the cannabis does. That's true. Okay. Karsten! What's up, buddy? I missed you yesterday, Karsten. Just because I bitch you out for messaging me doesn't mean you don't come to my live show, bro. All right? Come to my live show. Take it. You were being sneaky. And if you got something like this, bring it to the show. Like what you told me on that instant message, bro. You say Kyle Kalinske said something, wait till my live show and mention it to me on my live show. All right? Don't abuse the private messages. I use that specifically for specific things. You know that. Don't try to... David, thank you for using the correct term cannabis. You just made my month. NLRC, no law regarding cannabis. Cannabis laws hurt. Cannabis does not. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. We are... Now, everybody needs to go on there and promote Trendy As Dabbers on David Pakman's show. So... Here is the link to David Pakman's show, his live stream. Boom. If you're on any other service watching this except for Facebook, you'll be able to copy and paste. If you're on Facebook, you're going to have to try to read it right here, because there it is. It's watch $V equals QHLR, little s, big D, little I, 80, little y, big Q. There you go. Go to his live. Dude, somebody donated $1,000 to David Pakman. Do you guys see that? Where's my $1,000 donor? I want a goddamn $1,000 donor. David Pakman's not even doing this for people. Which reminds me, David Pakman's not even doing this for people. Where's my $1,000 donation? What the fuck? Give me a $1,000 donation or buy a $1,000 box of fucking 48 of these for $999. 48 of these motherfuckers. What could you do with that? All kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff. All right. Where's my $1,000 donor? That's why I love watching you and I listen to what you have to say. You're dedicated to the cause. You stand true to what you believe. You stand true to everything you talk about. NLRC, Access for All. Thank you, Michael Goldsmith. Hey, I think David might be back.
But you have no reason to disbelieve that wasn't the way it went down, right?
Oh, no.
No reason to disbelieve.
We got to wait for another break. I thought he was going to talk there.
Now that you've had some time since your deposition and you submitted an addendum relating to the Warsaw get-together with Mr. Yarmak, as you sit here today, I mean, are we missing a lot of your communications with the president?
I haven't had that many communications
Steve Running
with the
said turn
president.
yes
In
to
fact,
Evers.
a
Yeah,
bunch of
Steve.
the call records that I have had access to, just the short period of time on the call indicates I never got through. In other words, I was put on hold for 1 or 2 minutes and the call never connected. So I really can't give you an accurate count of how many conversations. Plus, Mr. Castor, I've had a lot of conversations with the president about completely unrelated matters that have nothing to do with Ukraine.
So, but you don't think we're missing any material conversations that you have with the president?
I don't recall any material conversations today as I'm sitting here.
Or with Rudy Giuliani?
Yeah, my memory about the conversations with Rudy Giuliani, whether they were direct, whether they were conference calls with Ambassador Volker or Secretary Perry, is really vague without seeing the call logs.
Are there any other key fact witnesses that would help us, get to the bottom of whether there was any link to the aid and the?
Maybe Brian McCormack, the Chief of Staff for Secretary Perry, who was involved in and out as well.
Okay. Now
This is so boring.
the aid was ultimately lifted on September 11th, correct?
All right, let's turn that down because we don't.
Senator Johnson.
Now that is Sondland. That is the guy that was listening in on the
Ron, I understand your
on the phone call. That is, Donald Trump was all saying, "Oh, that was all secondhand information, secondhand information." Okay, well here's the
congressional investigations
guy that was on the call, right? Isn't that who Sondland was?
to Senator Johnson that he was going to lift the aid. Lift the aid.
I'm not sure, but I haven't been paying that close attention to it.
Most of the other witnesses.
Did I get rain? Yeah, a little bit of rain.
Or OMB
A little bit. A little bit. A little bit of rain. It rained a little bit.
have told us that all along during this 55-day period, they genuinely believed the hold would be lifted. Was that your feeling too at the time?
I didn't know because every time I asked
A little bit. I think so. Yeah, very much. Thank you very much. A little bit. A little bit. I'm going to hit this bong. A little bit.
The Ukrainians.
Because it's 420. I think there's plenty in here, right?
I don't know if the Politico
To
article
hit it again.
did. I don't know if
I just have all this fantastic cannabis. I don't even know why I would do that. You know what? Just have this fantastic cannabis. Just smoke fresh bowl every time. I would die.
During your
You know,
deposition,
what else am I going to do?
testified
Keep smoking ash
you did not believe the Ukrainians
when I've got this?
believed the
Why smoke ash when you've got the cash?
hold until Politico article.
again, I think
Okay.
I testified that I was
Here, we're going to put in the good stuff here. We're putting in some of that orange bud. And we're going to put in some of that Jack Hare. Jack Hare! We're going to put some of that Jack Hare!
Strategy here is to obfuscate with details, be boring, try to make it unclear when Sondland's primary.
Hey, he's talking. He's talking.
Everybody knew all along what we were
On aid
doing.
because he was trying to be a good steward of U.S. taxpayer dollars.
Whoa!
I'm aware that that's been his position on aid and other matters.
Dude, they just sent David Packman $1,500.
Better understanding the contributions of our
Even though, wait,
That I'm definitely
those might not be dollars.
back and forth,
That might be another currency from another country.
trying to better understand that information for the president.
yes, that's correct.
And how do you know that wasn't the reason for the hold?
So I'm not sure how much that is, but anyway, it is 420 in Newfoundland. Cheers, everybody. No law regarding cannabis. Laws regarding cannabis are what hurt people, not the cannabis. It's insidious. Cheers. We're idiots.
I want to turn quickly to the July 10th meeting. The July 10th meeting in Ambassador Bolton's office involving Ambassador Volker, Mr. Daniluk, Mr. Yarmark, has been the subject of some controversy. Ambassador Volker yesterday testified that it wasn't until the end of the meeting, Mr. Daniluk, he said, was going through some real detailed information about some of the plans he had. But it wasn't until the end of the meeting, Ambassador Volker recollects that you mentioned something general about investigations. What do you remember?
Deshaun, you want me to explain
Well,
flags?
again, I'm not gonna
Absolutely.
dispute that.
Anytime you have any kind of a symbol or a sport or a dividing line, or a religion, or a god, or a flag, or a uniform, just you support a different color. For instance, the Crips and the Bloods. It was for years. One gang wore blue, the other gang wore red. And that's how they could identify each other, so they could fucking kill each other. Right? A flag, it's just like the bandanas that these guys wore and the shirts that they would wear on the street. It's the same thing. It's something that says, I'm different than you are, and I'm willing to kill you over it. So fuck your flag. Fuck all flags. All flags suck. And if you can't see that, man, I maybe I could walk you through it a little bit more. I mean, it's just a fucking piece of cloth. We're actually people. People should matter more than fucking a cloth, with colors and symbols on it. We are so dumbed down to fall for something so fucking stupid. We allow our politicians, we allow Donald Trump to continue wars against people. Why? What's different from them and us? What's the difference? They're in a different part of the world. They fly a different flag. Oh, and they've got oil that we want to take from them. You fly your flag, you represent all of that bullshit. Shiva Diva, yes, you can post a link, as long as it's not to another live stream that's live right now. Only I can do that. But you can post a link to a live streamer, which I don't mind, as long as they're not fucking broadcasting right now. Explained perfectly. Did that work? Was that good? To Sean, this is why I watch you. That's why we say fuck your flag, man. Because we reduce it down to just a fucking worthless piece of shit by saying fuck your flag. When you're like, whoa, I mean, that's a shocker. But what it does is it makes people ask questions. It does repulse a lot of people, and I couldn't give a fuck. Those kinds of people, those are the ones that get repulsed by that are indoctrinated, and it's a flag for me. No pun intended. It's a flag for me to show me that they're stupid, that they're really dumb, and even with me sitting here telling them the truth and showing it to them, and they're still in denial of it, that's how dumb they are. They're so indoctrinated. And it is a matter of being willing to be open to something that you might doubt. But you gotta have that little bit of doubt, or I can't open the door. You either got the door closed or you got it peeking open a little bit. So if somebody else would monitor this, like Steve Running, if you would monitor Pacman for me so I can talk, and if he starts talking, let me know and I'll go ahead and I'll fire up his audio. So, there's a Republican questioning the witness right now. I have absolutely no desire to listen to that line of questioning. I know it's not going to be sincere. Right? So when a Democrat gets on there, I would be more interested to hear that line of questioning. Because I know that will be questioning that directs towards impeachment. And that's what I'm interested in hearing. Oh, David Packin's laughing about something.
When we had the conversation, I did.
And when
This
you
is a
first
counter
started
narrative.
discussing the concerns the president had with corruption, Burisma wasn't the only company that was mentioned, right?
Counter
It was a
narrative. Right.
generic, as I think I testified.
It doesn't
to,
matter. Nothing
Chairman-
else matters. When David Pacman says there's a counter narrative, what he's saying is it's a distraction. They're trying to spin another thing to distract, but that doesn't take away from the facts that Donald Trump tried to bribe a country to get them to do something illegal. And no matter what they say,
That might have been one of them.
it doesn't change those facts, and they'll try to dance around it as much as they
Let
can.
me come up with a new line of questioning, because this one has
Up
failed.
at every
There you go.
conversation.
See,
that
David
fair?
Pacman gets it.
Probably.
David
You had,
Pacman gets it.
I guess Dr. Hill at one point attributed to you the terminology that the president has given you a large remit. You familiar with her assertion of that?
I didn't understand what she was talking about.
Okay.
Oh, he's tweeting live. Dude, David just fired off a tweet. It was awesome. He did it in front of his whole audience. He pulled up Twitter. He fucking fired off a tweet. Bam!
The president gave you a
That was awesome, man. He's tweeting, man, live during this thing. That is so bad as
When
fuck.
the president appointed me to the as the U.S. ambassador to the
I gotta
European
say,
Union,
I got
Ukraine was
elite,
part of my
elite
portfolio.
Twitter skills.
What made my assignment larger than just being part of my portfolio were the unique circumstances where there was no current sitting ambassador in Ukraine, and there was a new president in Ukraine. And the discussions that we had, the three amigos, Perry, Volker, and I, was that Ukraine needed extraordinary, as high a level support as it could get from the United States during this period, which we cleared with both Ambassador Bolton and with Chief of Staff Mulvaney to continue working on it. So by extension, yes, if the National Security Advisor and the Chief of Staff approve your remit, it really is coming from the President.
Okay. When we asked you that at the deposition, you said I was spinning a little bit.
I was spinning about something else, I think, in the interview.
That was awesome the way he fired off
Okay.
that tweet on his show, dude. I love that. I want to do that
So when I
shit.
said
Do I
the
do
president
that?
gave
I don't
me
ever
an
do that. That
assignment,
was cool, man.
it
You
wasn't
guys
with
should
the
see
president,
me
it
do
was the
that.
secretary through the
That
president.
was a really cool thing he just did.
And
I want to
that's
bring
where
up
I
Twitter and
received my
fire off
information, correct?
tweets while we're fucking live.
Correct.
You know?
Did Ambassador
I-
Taylor
why don't I do
ever
it right now?
bring any concerns to your attention about the so-called?
How do I do it?
The channel he dubbed irregular.
How do I do it?
No,
I
in
gotta do
fact, the
some things.
opposite. When he
I gotta do
came
some
to
things.
post, I know I called him, or he called me. I think he spoke
I'll
with,
probably get copyrighted
Secretary
for this.
Kerry and Ambassador Volker
You know?
separately.
David
And
Pacman's
in
probably
the
going to
course of the
copyright
first
strike me.
few
He's
weeks,
always
he was
talking
highly
about it.
appreciative that a new ambassador coming to post like himself.
Here,
was
let me,
getting the
can I
kind of
reverse
support he was
this?
getting from all three of us, having a cabinet member, a special envoy, and a fellow ambassador, all helping to raise the profile of Ukraine. He was highly appreciative and highly complimentary.
Here, let's get rid of the rest of
You
this
maintained an
stuff.
open line with him.
We'll
correct?
get down to the screen
Correct. I
here.
think there are a number of texts, some of which I have and some of which I don't, where he is reaching out constantly to me and to the others for advice and help.
Okay, we had, I think, tried to count them up. There's 215 or something text messages between you, Volker, and Ambassador Taylor, during the early August timeframe. Does that make sense to you? Is that?
Yeah, I think Taylor started in late June or early July was when he first took post, and I think we began communicating fairly shortly thereafter.
Okay, and he never communicated any concerns to you during this time frame that he had issues with what was going on?
What do you mean by what was going on?
This request for some sort of investigation.
Not in the early stages. He, as time went on, his emails began to be a little more pointed and frantic. And that's when
gonna
we
bring
had
up
very
David Pacman here.
little visibility as to what was going on.
I'm gonna
either. I
try
think
to
it had do
tweet
more with the aid and as to why the aid
like
was
David
suspended.
Pacman did.
Right. And ultimately,
That was
you
fucking awesome. He just did it so
put a
quick.
period on that issue by
There's David
having
Pacman down there in the
September 9th
corner on the
communication
left.
with the president, correct?
That's correct.
And when you shared that feedback with Ambassador Taylor, was he satisfied that this issue is now behind him?
I don't really know, because he responded when I said, get a hold of the secretary. He said, I agree, and I never knew whether he reached out to the secretary or not. That was
Okay.
sort of the end of that.
At one point in your text, you said, let's get on the phone, right? And you said you're an individual that doesn't like to walk through these issues on text when you can talk about it on the telephone.
I'd love to know even hypothetically what gotcha Castor thinks he's aiming towards
More
here.
substantive than just a few lines of text. I say, let's talk.
Okay, and did you talk with Ambassador Taylor?
I don't recall. I don't recall whether we spoke right after that, whether he called the secretary. I basically, Mr. Castor wanted to get the notion across that I've gone as far as I can go with this. You need to pick
David,
up,
I'm
you're the ambassador,
rebroadcasting
need to
you.
pick up the ball and
Please
run.
do not copyright strike me
Okay.
like CNN, MSNBC, ESPN, and
Just getting back
Sesame
to the
Street did to
irregular
you.
channel, did anyone else express interest to you about this so-called irregular channel?
I'm not sure how someone could characterize something as an irregular channel when you're talking to the President of the United States, the Secretary of State, the National Security Advisor, the Chief of Staff of the White House, the Secretary of Energy. I don't know how that's irregular if a bunch of folks
All right.
that are
Now I'm gonna
not
try to
in
fire
that
off a tweet.
channel are
How do I do
aggrieved
this?
for some reason for not being included. I don't know how they can consider us to be the irregular channel and they to be the regular channel when it's the leadership that makes the decisions.
So if I was going to do that,
And so the concerns, raised were never brought to a head.
Well, they were never raised.
Okay.
They were never raised.
Okay,
No
let
one
me
said, back off of Ukraine, this is dangerous, you're doing something that's untoward, we have concerns, there was a bad phone call on July 25th, there's talk about a drug cocktail or something. No one ever said that to me by phone, by text, by email. I don't remember anybody sounding any alarm bell because, of course, had someone mentioned it, I would have sat up and taken notice. Everyone's hair was on fire, but no one decided to talk to us.
When you talk in your statement about in the absence of any credible
fuck
explanation
yeah.
for the
I just
suspension,
tweeted at David Pagman. I just realized you didn't
later
see me
came
tweet
to
live.
believe,
See?
which you're
You have to
speculating,
see me tweet. What am I
yes,
thinking?
That
All
the
right.
resumption of
So if I
security aid
tweet-
would not occur until there was a public statement from Ukraine committing to the investigations of 2016. And I believe you said that at this point, you believed everyone knew this. Is that correct?
Oh, I see.
I think once that
So-
Politico article broke,
Let me see if it works. Let me see.
started making
Hold
the
on.
rounds that, if you can't
You guys
get
can see
a
me
White
tweet
House
live.
meeting without the statement, what makes you think you're going to get a, $400 million check? Again, that was my presumption.
Okay. But you had no evidence to prove that, correct?
That's correct.
Oh, you guys can't see any of that?
You know,
I just realized that.
you stated that you haven't been able to access your records. Is that correct?
Not all of
Twitter,
them.
the
And
Twitter.
there are lots of notes, records, readouts of calls,
I
can't get
don't
to them.
see the Twitter.
But you've also stated that you don't.
Where'd
take
David
notes,
go?
right?
I don't
David
take
just went
notes,
off screen.
but there are a lot of others out there.
Where did David go? David disappeared, man.
And you freely admit that when last year, I asked at your deposition, we put together a list of all the times you said you don't recall. It's like 2 pages long.
There
Is
it
that
is.
all?
So, you don't.
I can't see
On
the
a lot
Twitter.
of these questions, there's nuance, there are ambiguities.
I can't see it.
And we don't have records, we don't have notes, and we don't have recollections, correct?
Right. I mean, it's situational things that sort of trigger memory, especially when I'm dealing with
What?
the European Union. I'm dealing
isn't
with
working.
28 member countries. I'm dealing with other countries that are not in the European Union
All right,
that are
let's
part
try
of
this
my
again.
mandate. I'm dealing with the White House leadership. There's a lot of stuff to juggle. And as I said in my
Source.
opening statement, a
Twitter.
phone call for me with the President of the
There it
United
is.
States or the President of fill-in-the-blank country, while people who get a call like that maybe once in a lifetime, a call like that might be very memorable. They might remember every single thing about it. I'm doing that all day long, and I'm not saying it in a way of being braggadocio or anything like that, but it's part of my routine day. So all of these calls, these meetings with very important people tend to sort of blend together until I have someone that can show me what we discussed, what the subject was, then all of a sudden it comes back.
I mean, we're trying to get to the facts here. We're trying to find out what actually happened, what's reliable, what's accurate. Bill Taylor kept notes. He brought a little notebook in his pocket at his deposition, and he held it up, and he says, when I'm not at my desk, and I'm on the phone, I use this notebook. When I'm at my desk, I use a notebook. George Kent said he wrote just innumerable memos to the file. Catherine Croft, she testified that she didn't believe George Kent's notes would be accurate. And so, we have all this, back and forth, but, you know, as we get to the end here, you don't have records, you don't have your notes, because you didn't take notes, you don't have a lot of recollections. I mean, this is the trifecta of unreliability, isn't that true?
Well, what I'm trying to do today is to use the limited information I have to be as forthcoming as possible with you and the rest of the committee. And as these recollections have been refreshed by subsequent testimony, by some texts and emails that I've now had access to.
Fired off a tweet.
I think I filled in a lot of blanks.
But a lot of it's speculation. A lot of it is your guess, and we're talking about, you know, an impeachment of the President of the United States. So the evidence here ought to be pretty darn good.
I've been very clear as to when I was presuming, and I was presuming on the aid. On the other things, Mr. Castor, I did have some texts that I read from. So when
That's
it comes to
that's
those,
my new quote. This
I'll
is like
rely
watching
on those
horses
texts
fuck.
because I don't have any reason to believe that those texts were, you know, falsely sent or that there's some subterfuge there. They are what they are. They say what they say.
They are what they are, and they say what they say.
Thank you.
They are what they are, and they say what they say.
We'll now move to a
They are
second
what they are, and they say what they
round
say.
of 30 minutes. Mr. Volker, I just have a few questions before I turn it back to Mr. Goldman. You testified in response to my colleagues in the minority something along the lines of a lot of people did not make the connection between Burisma and Biden. I think a lot of people have real difficulty understanding that. Tim Morrison testified that I think it took him all of doing a Google search to find out, oh, this is the significance of Burisma. It involves the Bidens. Are you saying during all this time up until the call you never made the connection between Burisma and the Bidens? You just thought that the president and Rudy Giuliani were interested in this one particular Ukrainian company?
Twitter's
Again,
cool. You can watch
my
people.
role, Mr.
You can
Chairman,
watch people tweet
just
live.
to get them-
Where did David Packman
I
go?
understand that, but my question
Hey,
is, are you
David,
saying that for months and months,
who the fuck do you think you are? Trading A? You think you can just get up in the middle of the live stream and walk away, bro? Where are you? Where are you? I know where David Packman is. He's watching this show right now. He's watching me. He's like, I'm going over, I'm watching that guy. I'm going to get high with him real quick. All right, let's get high with David Packman, who's calling it cannabis. I want to give him a big shout out. That's why I'm promoting the hell out of him today, man. He called it cannabis. That is my biggest complaint, and I'm just so ecstatic. It is 7:10. Cannabis isn't for all. No law regarding cannabis. Access for all. Cheers, everybody. Barism. Barism. That's fun to say,
I
isn't
saw
it?
them very different, as very different. The former being appropriate and unremarkable.
It's like a
the
charisma,
latter being
but a
unacceptable.
barisma. It's like when you're in the bar and you got charisma in the bar. That's called barisma.
Does that sum up your views as well?
It does.
Now, I think you were asked a question with a bit of a incorrect premise by my colleagues in the minority about Fiona
Cheers,
Hill
Carson.
saying that, referring to a drug deal between you and Mr. Mulvaney, it was Ambassador Bolton who made the comment that he didn't want to be part of any drug deal that Ambassador Sondland and Mulvaney were cooking up. No one thinks they're talking about a literal drug deal here, or a drug cocktail.
Tasty.
The
Even for the
import, I
second
think,
hit.
of the ambassador's comments is
He
quite
said drug
clear
deal?
that, he
They just
believed
got my
that
attention.
This bargain, this quid pro quo, as you've described it over a meeting,
Drug deal. We're going to listen now.
the investigations to get the meeting was not something he wanted to be a part of. What I want to ask you about is, he makes reference in that drug deal to a drug deal cooked up by you and Mulvaney.
Hey, what's wrong with drugs? There ain't nothing wrong with drugs.
It's the reference to Mulvaney that I want to ask you about. You've testified that Mulvaney was aware of this quid pro quo, of this condition that the Ukrainians had to meet, that is, announcing these
I'm a
public
dog.
investigations.
Look at me. I'm a
Get the
dog.
White House meeting, is that right?
I'm a
A
dog.
lot of
Look at me.
people were aware
I'm
of
a
it.
dog. What movie is that from?
Including Mr. Mulvaney,
Bong Ribs for whoever can tell me what movie that's from.
and including the Secretary of State.
Correct.
Now, have you seen the acting chiefs of staff's press conference in which he
Mixy
acknowledged
Mixerton with
that
Trendy.
the military aid was
certain.
withheld in part because of a desire to get that 2016 investigation you've talked about?
I don't think I saw it live. I saw it later. Yeah.
So you saw him acknowledge publicly what you have confirmed too, that Mr. Mulvaney understood that 2 + 2 = 4.
2
that
+
right?
2 is 4.
Well, again, I didn't know
Inchworm,
that the aid was
inchworm.
conclusively tied. I was
1 +
presuming
1
he
is
was in a
2.
position to say yes, it was, or no, it
2 +
wasn't,
2
because
is
And he said yes, it was, did he
he said
not?
yes, it was.
Mr. Goldman.
Hey,
Thank you,
Tim.
Mr. Chairman, and thank you
Tim
again,
K.
Ambassador
Haymaker, what's up,
Sondland.
son?
We do appreciate your efforts to refresh your recollection through the documents, and we understand, we share your frustration in not having the documents to help guide this investigation.
Hi, Kim
So
Rose
we do
Perkins.
appreciate those efforts. One of the documents that you
I'm
provided
sorry,
to us
Royce.
goes back to
Kim Royce
the
Perkins.
conversation you and the chairman were having about Mr. Mulvaney. And you had been trying for some time before the July 25th call to
Democratic.
set up that call. Is that right?
Democratic.
To set up the call between President Trump and President Zelensky, yes.
Correct, yes. And I want to show you an email that you reference in your opening statement. That is a July 19th email.
Shiva with the camera.
And
Banana
who is this from?
It looks like is it from me? I don't know.
It's from you, I believe.
Yeah, it's from me to the group.
Now, who is the group?
Happy
People
710.
mentioned
Sorry I'm
in the
late.
email,
No law
Blair,
regarding
Kenna,
cannabis. Cheers, everybody.
Cormac, Mulvaney, Perry, Pompeo.
And,
I know
and who's
David
Robert
Packman's
Blair?
watching my show right now.
I believe he's
David,
a
welcome to my show. I know you're here
deputy
watching,
chief
bro.
of staff
You should
or
be
a
watching my
advisor
show.
to the chief of
You should
staff.
always watch my show.
And you've
only
already
3
told
times
us
a
that
day,
Lisa
man. I know
Kenna
you
is
got
the
time.
executive secretary for Secretary Pompeo. Who's Brian McCormick?
The chief of staff he was the chief of staff for Secretary Perry.
And then we see Mr. Mulvaney, Secretary Perry, and Secretary Pompeo. Can you read what you wrote on July 19th to this group, please?
He is prepared to receive POTUS call, will assure him that he intends to run a fully transparent investigation, will turn over every stone. He would greatly appreciate a call prior to Sunday so he can put out some media about a friendly and productive call, no details, prior to Ukraine election on Sunday.
So Sunday was the 21st, which was the date of the parliamentary elections in Ukraine, is that right?
That's right.
When you say, will assure him that he intends to run a fully transparent investigation and will, quote, turn over every stone,
Yo, bye.
unquote, what do you mean there?
I'm referring to the Burisma and the 2016 /
Burisma.
server investigations.
Later that evening, Secretary Perry responds just to you and Brian McCormick, saying, Mick just confirmed the call being set up for tomorrow by NSC, RP. And then a little later, Mr. Mulvaney replies to all, saying, I asked NSC to set it up for tomorrow. Were these the only responses that you received to this email?
I don't know. If I have them, I would show them. I don't know.
No one wrote back to you and said, what are you talking about in terms of these investigations and turning over every stone?
No, there was a chain, and I don't know if it's part of this email or a subsequent email, where I believe Ambassador Bolton pushed back and said he did not want a call to President Zelensky made by President Trump until after the parliamentary elections.
So that would explain why it was moved from the next day, July 20th, to the 25th, right?
That's right.
But Ambassador Bolton is not on this email, is he?
I don't think he is, no.
Now, you were asked by Mr. Castor if there are any other key witnesses who might be able to help with our investigation. And you mentioned Brian McCormick, right, the Chief of Staff for Secretary Perry?
I did.
You are aware that the committee subpoenaed him, are you not?
I wasn't aware of that.
And that he refused to come testify? Are you also aware that Mr. Mulvaney was subpoenaed by the committee and refused to come testify?
I did read that in the newspaper, yes.
Are you also aware that Robert Blair was subpoenaed and refused to come testify?
I think I'm aware of that.
And that Secretary Perry was asked to come testify and refused?
I am aware of that.
He's making some great
So
points.
would you include them, as well as Secretary Pompeo, as key witnesses that would be able to provide some additional information on this inquiry?
I think they would.
Ooh. Boom.
This was not the first time, as you indicated, that Mr. Mulvaney heard about these investigations into Burisma and the 2016 election. Is that right?
I don't know what Mr. Mulvaney heard or didn't hear. I think there's been a huge amount of exaggeration over my contact with Mr. Mulvaney. It was actually quite limited.
Well, he certainly didn't indicate. He certainly indicated a familiarity with what you were talking about in this July 19th email. Is that
Right, because I think Mr. Mulvaney was in the May 23rd briefing with President Trump. I don't remember because there were people sitting behind us that were coming and going when we were sitting in front of President Trump's desk.
Okay. Now, you've said that you don't have a recollection of referencing Mulvaney in the July 10th meeting in Ambassador Bolton's office. Is that right? Or
I don't recall.
so when both Fiona Hill and Colonel Vindman testify that in response to a question from Ukrainian officials at that July 10th meeting about scheduling a White House visit, that you said, well, I spoke with Mr. Mulvaney and it will be scheduled after they announce these investigations. Do you have any reason to dispute that characterization?
I don't have any reason to agree or
You guys
dispute.
didn't
I
see
just
me
don't
fire off a
remember.
tweet. I just realized that.
So if they both remembered it and they both then went and spoke to the NSC legal advisor about it, you would trust that whatever they relayed to the NSC legal advisor would likely be an accurate reflection?
Again, I trust that they related to the NSC legal advisor. I don't know whether I said it, and I don't know which conversation. Again, I've had very, very limited conversations with Mr. Mulvaney.
This email indicates that you spoke to President Zelensky and were relaying what he said to very senior officials. Is that right?
Which email again?
Sorry, the July 19th email, where you say, the subject is, I talked to
Yes.
Zelensky just now.
I've got it.
Was there some sort of assurance that President Zelensky needed to provide about what he would say to President Trump in order just to get the phone call?
I think that part was verbal, and then there were a lot of communications going around back and forth with the Ukrainians, and that's when someone, and I don't remember who, came up with the idea of a draft statement so there would be no misunderstanding about
fired off
what,
a tweet.
in fact, the Ukrainians would say and would be willing to say that we could rely on and negotiate something on a piece of paper.
So just to place you in time, we're going to get to that draft statement, which was in August. This is July 19th, before the July 25th call. Do you remember whether there was a need from any of the White House officials or other national security officials for President Zelensky to provide some assurance of what he would say to President Trump before a phone call, not the meeting, but a phone call was scheduled?
There was initially apparently a condition, but that condition was obviously dropped because the phone call took place and there was no such statement made. The phone call took place, as you said, on the 25th of July.
And when you say there was no such statement that took place, what do you mean?
Well, the Ukrainians never made their public statement prior to the phone call on the 25th of July.
Right, but we're not talking about a public statement. What I was asking is whether President Zelensky needed to relay to you or the other American officials that he would assure President Trump that he would do these investigations in a phone call.
Well, in my email, I obviously had just spoken with him, and he being Zelensky, and he said that he was prepared to receive the call and he would make those assurances to President Trump on that call, and then presumably that would then lead to the White House meeting.
And you had been discussing this phone call for several weeks now, is that right?
Yes, I think with Volker, with Perry, with Giuliani through Volker and Perry.
And then, right after you sent this email assuring the others that he will discuss the investigations and will turn over every stone, the Burisma in 2016 election investigations, Mr. Mulvaney responded that he asked to set up the call for the next day. Is that right?
That's what it says.
I'll be right back.
Now, let's go to that press statement that you were discussing in August. And you testified, I believe, that you understood that Rudy Giuliani was representing the president's interests with regard to Ukraine. Is that right?
That's what we all understood.
And when you all, who do you mean we all?
Secretary Perry, Ambassador Volker, myself.
In August, you and Ambassador Volker were coordinating with Andrei Yermak, the Zelensky aide, about a press statement. And I want to pull up some of the text exchanges that you were referring to, which, as you acknowledge,
David,
helps
thank
you refresh
you.
your recollection.
What's
Is that
up?
right?
And I think Taylor was involved in those initial discussions as well.
Well, he's not on any of these text messages, so perhaps he was. He does not remember that. But let's go to the first one. Is it working? On August 9th? There's an exchange between Ambassador Volker and you, where you are discussing setting up, we'll try to bring it up in a second, but I'll just summarize for you. You're discussing trying to set up a White House meeting, here it is, and you say that Morrison ready to get dates as soon as Yermak confirms. Mr. Volker, or Ambassador Volker
can't
says,
see my
excellent, how did you sway him?
The way that is.
You said, not sure I did, I think POTUS really wants the deliverable. What did you mean there?
The commitment to do the investigations.
And how did you know that the president wanted the deliverable?
I don't recall. I may have had a conversation with him, or I may have heard it from someone else, but I don't recall, again, without all these records.
Going to the next exhibit, Exhibit 10, where, or August 10th rather, this is between you and Andrei Yermak. What did you say initially in this exchange?
Hello? Good? Oh, no, that's Yermak. How was your conversation?
And Mr. Yermak responds, hello, good, my proposal, we receive date, and then we make general statement with discussed things. Once we have a date, we'll call for a press briefing announcing upcoming visit and outlining vision for the reboot of U.S.-Ukraine relationship, including, among other things, Burisma and election meddling and investigations.
Boris.
And you respond, got it. That was your understanding of what this statement had to say to satisfy Mr. Giuliani, is that right?
Yes.
And then ultimately to satisfy
Look at
the
the smile on
POTUS
his
deliverable?
face.
Yes.
Now, the next day you write an email
Damn.
to Ulrich Breckbull and Lisa Kenna. Are you able to see that on your
Yeah, I can see it on the screen, yeah.
Okay. What is the subject of the email?
Ukraine.
And can you read what you wrote there?
Mike, and I'm referring to Secretary Pompeo, Kurt and I negotiated a statement from Zelensky to be delivered for our review in a day or two. The contents will hopefully make the boss happy enough to authorize an invitation. Zelensky plans to have a big presser on the openness subject, including specifics next week.
And in your opening statement, you said that the specifics, what did the specifics represent?
The 2016 and the Burisma,
And when you say the boss, who do you mean by that?
President Trump,
And the invitation is what?
to the White House meeting.
And Lisa Kenner responds, Gordon, I'll pass to S.
I like
And
it to
S
say
is Secretary Pompeo?
Correct.
Thank you, Lisa.
Boris.
Now, 2 days later,
My doggy dog.
you have a text exchange with Ambassador Volker again. And this is at the end of it, but
Little
the
doggy.
earlier text, which we don't have here, you may recall, includes the press statement, the revised press statement that includes Burisma and the 2016 election. Do you recall that?
Yes, if I could see it, that would be helpful, but yes.
But you ultimately remembered that after your conversation with Mr. Giuliani, you did pass along a statement to the Ukrainians that included Burisma in the 2016 election. Is that right?
I think there were statements being passed back and forth between Volker.
I like how
Ukrainians
nice,
and
I like how
others to try and
cordial
negotiate
the Democrats are
acceptable
being.
language.
And ultimately, that
These guys
statement was not issued, was
Are
it?
all on the
And
wrong
the White
team,
House
man.
meeting did not.
Working in
Still
that
hasn't
White
occurred.
Still
House.
hasn't occurred. But you certainly understood at that time, did you not, that it was the
And they're being so
president's
nice to him.
direction and instruction that a White House meeting with President Zelensky would not occur until President Zelensky announced publicly the investigations that the president wanted. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you now know that the investigations the president wanted was an investigation into the Bidens and an investigation into the 2016 election.
I know that now, yes.
You didn't know it then, though.
I'm going to
That's
move ahead
interesting.
to August 22nd. And you wrote an email to Secretary Pompeo, directly to Secretary Pompeo, CCing Lisa Kenna, with the subject of Zelensky. And could you please read what you wrote to Secretary Pompeo?
Mike, should we block time in Warsaw for a short pull-aside for POTUS to meet Zelensky? I would ask Zelensky to look him in the eye and tell him that once Ukraine's new justice folks are in place mid-September, Zelensky should be able to move forward publicly and with confidence on those issues of importance to POTUS and to the U.S. Hopefully that will break the logjam.
Logjam.
Secretary Pompeo responds to you 3 minutes later.
What's the logjam?
Yes. Now, I want to unpack this a little bit. You said that in the middle, once Ukraine's new justice folks are in place. What did you mean by that?
The new prosecutor that was going to be working for President Zelensky, the old prosecutor, I believe his term was up or he was being let go. He was the Poroshenko prosecutor, and Zelensky wanted to wait until his person was in place.
So once that new prosecutor was in place, then President Zelensky, should be able to move forward publicly and with confidence on those issues of importance to POTUS. What did you mean by those issues of importance to POTUS?
Cheers,
Again,
David.
the 2016 election and Burisma investigation.
Boris.
Were you aware at this time that Secretary Pompeo had listened in to the July 25th phone call?
I was not.
If he had, do you believe that he would fully understand what the issues of importance to POTUS related to Ukraine would
We
be?
want him as a witness.
I mean, I can't characterize his state of mind. He listened in on the phone call and he concluded what he concluded.
But now that you've read the phone call, it's quite clear what the issues of importance to POTUS are.
Yes,
Biden investigation and
Yes.
the 2016 election investigation, is that right?
that's correct.
Then it says, hopefully, that will break the logjam.
What logjam?
Now, by this point, you were aware that security assistance had been on hold for about 5 weeks, is that right?
I became aware on the 18th of July.
And you understood that there was a lot of activity within the State Department and elsewhere to try to get that hold lifted, is that right?
That's right.
Just about everybody in the interagency, meaning the national security apparatus, wanted to lift the hold and wanted the aid to go to Ukraine?
Correct.
So what did you mean here when you said logjam?
Well, as I said to Chairman Schiff, I meant inclusively anything that was holding up moving forward on the meeting and the Ukraine-U.S. relationship.
And
was
what
aware.
was holding that up?
At that point, it was the statements about Burisma and the 2016 election.
But what was being held up?
Well, the aid was being held up, obviously.
4 days later, you said in your opening statement that you sent Rudy Giuliani's contact information to John Bolton, is that right?
I did.
Did you know why he asked for that?
No idea.
Did you know that he was going to Ukraine the next day?
I knew he was about to go to Ukraine. I didn't know exactly when his trip was, but I thought it was kind of an odd request, given that the White House can pretty much get anyone's phone number they want.
Now, in this email to Secretary Pompeo, you referenced a trip to Warsaw. Ultimately, the Vice President went on that trip,
That's correct.
and that was the conversation that you talked about, where you testified earlier to, that where you said that we really need to get these investigations from Ukraine in order to release the aid in the pre-meeting,
That's right.
and Vice President Pence just nodded
He heard what I said.
and didn't respond in any way.
I don't recall any substantive response.
But you never specifically referenced the Bidens or Burisma in that meeting, did you?
I don't remember ever mentioning the Bidens. I may have mentioned Burisma.
And that meeting was with a group. You were not alone with Vice President Pence.
That's
Is that
correct.
right? And you know that at that bilateral meeting with President Zelensky, I believe you testified earlier, that Vice President Pence did not mention these investigations at all, right?
I don't recall him mentioning the investigations.
Hey, Jack.
So that your testimony is just simply in a pre-meeting with a group of Americans before the bilateral meeting. You
I know.
referenced the fact
some
that
bullshit.
Ukraine needed to do these investigations in order to lift the aid. right?
I think I referenced, I didn't say that Ukraine
Let's
had to do
tweet-
the
let's tweet
investigations.
about
I think
it.
I said that we heard from Mr. Giuliani that that was the case.
So that helped inform your presumption, correct?
Correct.
So it wasn't really a presumption. You heard from Mr. Giuliani.
Well, I didn't hear from Mr. Giuliani about the aid. I heard about the Burisma in 2016.
And you understood at that point, as we discussed 2 + 2 = 4, that
That's
the
right.
aid was there as well.
That was the problem, Mr. Goldman. No one told me directly that the aid was tied to anything. I was presuming it was.
Right. Well, I want to go ahead to, I'm going to go back on September 1st, or I'm going to jump actually ahead to September 7th, okay? When we discussed those text messages where you said there were multiple convos with President Zelensky and POTUS, you recall that?
Do you have the email by any chance?
We could try to pull it up in a second, but you don't remember I showed it to you
Yeah,
earlier this
go
morning?
ahead, though, with your question.
And you confirmed that that likely meant, as you said it did, that you spoke with President Trump. Is that right?
Again, if my email said I spoke with President Trump, presumably I did.
You are relying pretty heavily in your testimony on the texts and emails that you were able to review. Is that right?
That's right.
So certainly if someone else had contemporaneous texts, emails, or notes, you would presume that what they were saying was accurate. Is that correct?
Well, if they had texts or emails, I would. If they had notes, I don't know. Some people's notes are great, some people's aren't. I don't know.
But certainly it would be a helpful refresher to anyone's memory.
Including my own.
Now, you had a conversation on September 7th, according to both Ambassador Taylor and Tim Morrison, with Tim Morrison, where you told Mr. Morrison that President Trump told you that he was not asking for a quid pro quo, but that he did insist that President Zelensky go to a microphone and say that he is opening investigations of Biden and 2016 election interference, and that President Zelensky should want to do this himself. You don't have any reason to dispute both Ambassador Taylor's and Mr. Morrison's testimony about that conversation, do you?
No.
On September 8th, you then had a
That's a
conversation
good question.
directly with Ambassador Taylor about this same phone call, where Ambassador Taylor said that you confirmed that you spoke to President Trump, as he had suggested earlier to you, and that President Trump was adamant
Hey, David, what's
that
up?
President Zelensky himself, meaning not the Prosecutor General, had to, quote, clear things up and do it in public, unquote. Do you recall, you don't have any reason to think that Ambassador Taylor's testimony based on his contemporaneous notes was,
I don't know if I got that from President Trump or I got it from Giuliani. That's the part I'm not clear on.
well, Ambassador Taylor is quite clear that you said President Trump. Mr. Morrison is also quite clear that you said President Trump. You don't have any reason to dispute their very specific recollections, do you?
No, if they have notes and they recall that, I don't have any reason to dispute it. I just personally can't remember where I got it from.
And then you also told
This guy's
Ambassador
memory
Taylor in that
sucks.
same conversation that if President Zelensky, you told President Zelensky and Andrei Yermak that although this was not a quid pro quo, as the president had very clearly told you, it was, however, required for President Zelensky to clear things up in public or there would be a stalemate. You don't have any reason to dispute Ambassador Taylor's recollection of that conversation you had with President Zelensky, do you?
No.
And then you understood the stalemate referenced the aid, is that correct?
At that point, yes.
Ambassador Taylor also described a comment that you made where you were trying to explain what President Trump's view of this was. And you said that President Trump is a businessman. When a businessman is about to sign a check to someone who owes him something, the businessman asks the person to pay up before signing the check. Do you recall saying that to Ambassador Taylor?
I don't recall it specifically,
This
but I
is
may have.
stupid.
And Ambassador Volker also said that you did.
Okay.
So just to summarize here, by the end of the first week of September, before the aid had been released, you had expressed twice to the Ukrainians that you understood that the investigations needed to be publicly announced on CNN in order for the aid to be released. Do you recall that?
I didn't say that they had to be announced on CNN. The Ukrainians said to me or to Ambassador Volker, or both of us, that they had planned to do an interview anyway on CNN, and they would use that
Hey,
occasion
David, honey, if it's
to
bothering
mention
you,
these
then I
items.
think it's
And
we're
that even
on the
though
right
at some
track.
point you had calculated 2 + 2 to equal 4, and therefore you believed that the aid was conditioned on the investigations, that you had a phone call with President Trump that you relayed to both Tim Morrison and Ambassador Taylor, whose accounts of that conversation you do not dispute, where President Trump confirmed that President Zelensky needed to publicly announce the investigations, or otherwise the obvious implication of the stalemate would be that the aid would not be released. Is that correct?
Again, the implication, I did not hear directly from President Trump that the aid would be held up until the statement was made. I did not hear those words.
Oh, you agree with whatever Mr. Morrison and Ambassador Taylor testified to about the conversation you had with President Trump. Is that right?
Remind me again, I don't want to misspeak.
Well, you just said you have no reason to dispute their accounts based on their detailed notes.
Were they saying that I told them that President Trump said that the aid would not be released until the statements were made? Because I said repeatedly, I don't recall President Trump ever saying that to me.
Okay.
I think what they said, if I could just finish this line of
Yeah.
questioning,
Yeah.
was that President Trump was adamant that President Zelensky himself had to clear things up, quote, clear things up and do it in public, unquote. So what they related was although President Trump claimed to you there was no quid pro quo, he also made it clear to you in that call that President Zelensky had to, quote, clear things up and do it in public.
Hey, gentlemen.
You don't have a reason to dispute, that's what you
I don't
told
have any reason to dispute the clear things up and do it in public. What I'm trying to be very clear about was President Trump never told me directly that the aid was tied to that statement.
But in that same conversation you had with him about the aid, about the quid pro quo, he told you that President Zelensky had to, quote, clear things up and do it in public, correct?
I did not have a conversation with him about the aid. I had a conversation with him, as referenced in my text, about quid pro quo.
Well, the quid pro quo you were discussing was over the aid, correct?
No, President Trump, when I asked him the open-ended question, as I testified previously, what do you want from Ukraine? His answer was, I want nothing. I want no quid pro quo. Tell Zelensky to do the right thing. That's all I got from President Trump.
Did you also get from President Trump, as reflected by Ambassador Taylor, that he said he was adamant that President Zelensky had to, quote, clear things up and do it in public?
That part I can agree to, yes.
Time is now with the minority for 20 minutes.
That was a great
Sorry,
question. He's
33
like,
minutes.
no quid quid pro quo.
33
But
minutes.
you got to go clear things up in public. Get on a microphone.
Ambassador, you've been
so
in business
contradictory.
for a long time.
I have.
So
Uh-oh, here's Nunez.
if you want to get to the bottom of something, somebody that's running a department or one of your buildings or something, who do you go to?
Boss.
The manager of whatever company it
Exactly.
is, right?
Correct.
So if you want to get to the bottom of foreign aid, probably go to the people that are in charge of foreign aid here in this town, huh? Wouldn't you?
Wouldn't you?
'Cause you're not in charge of foreign aid.
I'm not in charge of foreign aid.
And you've had to testify that you've presumed foreign aid was this or that, and you're guessing that this was tied to foreign aid. But there are people in this town who are in charge of the foreign aid. And in fact, I don't think it's very fair to you at all, or to us, or to the American people. You might be surprised that we had that person here in the Capitol, in a secret deposition, in the basement, last Saturday. Now, that testimony might be pretty important to you before you're here to testify.
Oh, is he gonna
You
bring
could
it
have read
up?
That. Your lawyers could have.
Is he going to
went through
reveal
that
it?
Because it may have clarified some more things for you about your recollection about the foreign aid.
Nunez is about to break the law.
So, we heard about we had the chair looking at the cameras telling American people, talking about Watergate with their Watergate fantasies that they continue to, I guess they fantasize about this at night. And then they come here and talk about obstruction of justice because they're not giving you documents that you think you should have. So now they've laid out their clear Watergate argument or articles of impeachment.
Put
I
that
just
at
have to
Gene
remind
Abdallah.
the gentleman, I know we're not in a court of law because you wrote the rules, the chair here did, but I would think it's obstruction of justice to not give the American people and give the ambassador the right to look at the transcript of the man who's in charge of the foreign aid in this town.
Here we go. He's trying to
Now, I
break the
could
law.
get into what he said, but the chair could release what he said.
You can break the law and release it.
We're not even allowed to call that witness here.
What are you going to do, bro? What are you going to say? Say it. Say
So-
what you're going to say.
Let's talk about things that we do know are facts. Okay?
Devin!
Just as I think you and I and most
Come
people
on,
know.
Devin.
President Trump does not like foreign aid to start with. Is that correct, Ambassador?
I've heard that, yes.
And you've testified that watching over the EU, you have 28 countries, you have neighboring countries that you work with. One of his biggest complaints is the lack of participation that those countries
He
participate
got
in
close.
programs around the world. Isn't that correct?
He's like, I
That's
could
correct.
tell you.
Especially NATO,
You can't tell him.
Yes.
right? That's one of your, when you go down the list of the jobs that.
He's being a dick.
When you get directions from the White House, when you first became ambassador, probably one of the number one things, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but on the top of the list was making sure countries pay their fair share, especially with NATO.
Yeah, and we have a very capable ambassador to NATO, so I'm not going to take her lane.
But it's one of the, but you work with those countries, it's one of the issues that you bring up in your meetings, correct?
It is.
So, now I know you weren't on the July 25th phone call, but one of the first things that the President of the United States brings up is Germany's lack of participation. I think he names President of Germany directly, that they're not participating in helping out Ukraine, who's one of their neighbors. Is that what you read in the transcript?
I've heard that, yes.
So the whole idea that the president starting out with he doesn't like foreign aid, he doesn't think countries pay their fair share, that's looking out for the taxpayer. But there's more, and we talked about this in your deposition. We talked about it, about how we have requirements. The Congress writes requirements into the law that require you and all the diplomats to carry out the foreign policy of this country for the President of the United States. Before the President can certify foreign aid and send foreign aid, there has to be certification that there's no corruption. You're aware of that now.
I am now, yes.
So being that you learned about that in your deposition, now looking back at clearly the challenges and concerns the president had with the involvement of high-level Ukrainian government officials, including the ambassador here in the United States that attacked him during his presidential campaign. The concerns of leaks that were leaks or just made-up stories and conspiracy theories that were spun in the Steele dossier that the Democrats on this committee own. They paid for it. Other DNC operatives that were working with the Ukrainian ambassador here in Washington, D.C. to dirty up your boss, the President of the United States. We're not going to hear from those witnesses. Just like we're not going to hear from the person we deposed on Saturday.
I'm sorry,
We're
David
not going to hear
Pakman went
about
away, guys.
what the real reason, the person who's in charge of
God, this
making
guy's
sure
still,
that
he's still
foreign
talking
aid is
about the
delivered.
same one thing. Okay, that should say one thing to you guys right there. He has spent all this time, and he's still talking about one thing. The Republicans have nothing. But anyway, this should be really interesting just to hear what else this guy's going to say. I don't know if a Democrat's going to ask a blockbuster question or not, but it sounds like basically already, verified just about everything to just say that the president is, corrupt as fuck. His head's getting shiny. It's funny. All right, listen, I gotta go eat, guys. I don't know why David Pakman left us, but I'm gonna keep watching David Pakman's show. Hopefully he'll come back and he'll read that super chat. That'd be great. All right, take care, guys. No law regarding cannabis. So glad David Pakman is calling it cannabis. Check out David Pakman. All right, guys, and check me out on Twitter. That's Trendy As Dabbers on Twitter. And retweet everything that I'm putting out there. All right? Cool. Thanks for the retweets. Bye, guys. No law regarding cannabis.